This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Know-How is brought to you by CashFly.
This episode of Know-How is brought to you by the Ring Video Doorbell. With Ring, you can see and talk to anyone at your door from anywhere in the world using your smartphone. It's like caller ID for your house. Right now, get free expedited FedEx shipping when you go to ring.com/knowhow. And by Wealthfront. Wealthfront is a low-cost, automated investment service and the most sophisticated way to invest your money. Whether you've got millions or you're just starting out, visit wealthfront.com/knowhow and sign up to get your free personalized investment portfolio. That's wealthfront.com/knowhow. On today's show,
you'll know how to finish your steampunk goggles.
welcome to Know-How. It's the Twitch show where we build, bend, break, and upgrade. I'm Father Robert Ballecer.
And I'm Bryan Burnett.
And for the next 45 minutes or so, we're going to show you some of the projects that we've been playing with so you can take them home and geek out on your own.
And that was our freeform.
It was freeform. It was interpretive.
It was very interpretive.
It was me spinning in circles. What were you doing? Like a little...
I panicked. I didn't have any idea of what I should do. I was thrown off by your spinning.
You know, the life throws things at you. You just got to throw things back.
Life finds a way.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. Speaking of finding a way, we found a decent way to finish our, at least our first steampunk goggle project. Now,
yeah, these look really cool.
These are, yeah, this is much better than what I had before. First of all, you can tell I've switched the filament to black instead of white. I think that does definitely add a dimension to it.
Yes.
I've also, we're going to go through this when we do the design portion of the segment, but these cups are a lot bigger than the ones I previously had. In fact, we're going to go through all the iterations. This is what had to happen before we got to this.
So a lot of prototyping is what you're saying.
A lot of prototyping, and you know, because I don't have an eye for design, I can't put it down into the CAD program and say that's what I want. I have to see it, feel it, and go, it just doesn't quite feel right.
Something that needs to be adjusted just a few more fractions so you can fit like a larger battery or something. Yeah.
Or like for this, I'm thinking, well, I could design it small now, but I know I want to add things as we go. So you're gonna find out there's actually a lot of space inside this housing.
This is one of my favorite projects I've watched you do because it's incorporated the 3D printer, which I still need to play with, but LEDs, which I'm fascinated by, blinky lights, and then the software aspect.
The software aspect with the Arduino,
yeah. With the Arduino stuff,
yeah. And hopefully you see that. Hopefully you realize that we're trying to give you more tools in your Maker DIY tool chest, which is what we're gonna do now. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about how this came about, how this was designed. Okay. We know that this started with simple goggles, and actually I gave you the set, the prototype set from last week.
That's right.
These are $7, $8 goggles that you buy on Amazon.com. You know,
they're welders goggles.
There's also, by the way, so I took there's double lens, right? There's the clear lens and then there's the tinted lens to keep the UV light out of your eye.
Yeah.
I doubled up on this, so here. Put those.
Oh, so these are the two black lenses?
Two black lenses. It's like, no.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Where did you go?
It's complete blackout.
I can barely see the lights.
We'll talk about this when we get to the end of the project, but you have a lot of choices in how you want your finished goggles to look.
But you probably don't want to double up on the black.
Probably don't want to do that. Yeah. You won't be able to see absolutely anything. Let's talk about design. So everything started with these.
Right, those are just the cups.
These are just the rings. Yeah, they go around the cups of the goggles. And I knew how big I needed them to be because I just used a tape measure and I went across the widest part of the goggles and I figured out they were something like 52 millimeters.
Wasn't the hard part getting the actual little flat grooves to fit?
Precisely, yeah. If you look closely, let me get the action cam here.
The Know-How action cam?
If you look closely at this, you'll see that the edges, are beveled. There we go. And so what we wanted to do is we wanted to have the ring match up with that bevel so that the ring wouldn't just spin around. Because what I didn't want the frame to get so heavy that it would just get deformed, like they would just sag.
Right.
And that would happen if the cup was a perfect circle because there'd be no place for it to grip.
Right.
But because the bezels on the cup match the bezels on the ring, it means it's the only way they're going to rotate is if the material stretches or snaps.
So did you count each one of these, or did you figure it out by
Well, what I did was I figured out how wide each one of these was, and that tells me you divide the circle by that, and that's how many go in there.
Sweet.
So that's just math. But so we go from the rings to this. This was the first idea I had. It was a bad idea. It worked, and actually for electronics, this is great because all the electronics are squared off. It fits really nicely in there. But it looks,
well, you can see this is very much a engineer's solution to a problem.
Exactly. Like, I don't care about style. No. Everything works.
It's function before fashion.
Exactly. But then I changed it from that to this. I said, okay, well, let's make it fit into the goggle a little bit more. And I broke out one of the walls. And this does fit, and it doesn't scrape against the side of your head. But it still looked a little like ass.
Yeah, I kind of like the square look, but we might have to refine that a little more.
Right. And then the very first angled look was this, and I call this the stiletto because it looks like a high heel.
Oh, yeah, good call.
But we went to a sloped side, which actually is very difficult. I'm gonna show you in Tinkercad how we did that. It's not the easiest thing. This gave me the first idea of like, oh, that's the look I want. I want it angled, I want it curved. But if you compare these, you'll notice that this curved one is a lot less efficient for the installation of electronics than the square one.
Yeah, because you've got square batteries, a square Arduino to put in there.
Right, and that means that you're going to be wasting a lot of space. There's going to be a lot of space where it's curved and you can't put anything there because your electronics aren't curved.
Right.
All right. Now, this really quickly, let's go down the line. So we go from this this one to this one, and this one actually added the integrated mounting point for the loop because I wanted the loop integrated with the frame rather than hanging off the frame. Then we went from that to this, and I thought I would extend the cup. So the sides on this are much taller than the sides on that because I wanted to cover more of the goggle, more of the glass.
Okay.
Right. And then I realized this would not work properly because this part would actually cut into your nose.
So it wouldn't be very comfortable.
It wouldn't be very comfortable. So we went from that to, which was this one. So this one, you can see one side of it is actually cut out a bit more.
Right.
And that's the side with your nose. So the cup is a slightly different angle. I've also added a battery plate. And if you'll notice here, instead of just a hole, I added a mounting post, which helps the loop have a bit more stability.
Very nice, yeah.
Yeah. So, you can just go right down the line here and see how the design progresses. Each time it gets a little bit better, each time it gets a little bit different, until we get to the finished design. The finished design had the mounting hole for my rotary potentiometer. It also had that you can see that little indent. That indent keeps the potentiometer from spinning. Because I want the shaft to spin, the wiper to spin, not the entire potentiometer.
Right, so it's like a little stud for it to hang in there.
Right, it's got the design element of the one side is lower than the other so that it will fit properly on the bridge. It adds this, if you notice the side here, the bottom is actually thinner than the top.
It kind of looks like the bottom of a soda can.
Right, and that's just purely stylistic. That doesn't add any functionality, that just makes it look a tiny bit better. And then we get from that to this. So this is the truly finished product. This incorporates all the different design changes that I made. It adds the LEDs, it adds the LED rings, and of course it adds, my focus is really bad. It adds the brass gears. I just added 3 of them, so I've got 2 on this side, and I've got 1 on that side. But it does something. Actually, I like the way that the brass gears look when you rotate them.
Right.
It gives it that nice little thingy thing, right?
No, it's a very steampunk design right there.
It is. But let's back away from this, Brian, because what I want to do is I want to show you how the actual Tinkercad session looked like.
Okay.
When we started putting this together. So Alex, if you could go ahead and jump into input 11.
Wow.
Yeah, so when I started designing this was the file that I started playing with. Just like in our previous designs, but you're going to find out, especially if you're using a low-cost program, which is Tinkercad, which is free, you're going to spend a lot of time making it do things that it wasn't really designed to do.
Yeah, as you can get more elaborate, it seems to get a lot more difficult.
Yeah.
Something like that in AutoCAD, that finished product, probably would have been easier to do.
Super easy.
But to quick prototype some of this stuff, I think Tinkercad's probably the way to go.
Yeah. And now what we've got here is we've actually got, there's 3 major shapes. There's that red ring. which that's because I remember I want that bottom part a little smaller.
Right.
Then there's the blue ring, which is taller but thinner because it's going to go around the cup.
Right.
And then there's this, the C channel. The problem is there's no shape for cup and C channel, so we had to make them. So, for example, this whole C channel thing here,
wow.
This is actually a solid C channel that then I had to, a solid like little oval thing that I've slanted. So I've slanted the shape.
Right.
And then I've had to put another slanted oval, but smaller, but hollow inside of it.
Right.
In order to make that shape work properly.
Because it's almost like you're starting with a solid object and you're carving away from it.
That's actually the better way to think of it. When you're doing Tinkercad and you don't have advanced tools that can make compound shapes, the easiest way to do it is to make the shape the way you want it to look on the outside, and then hollow out everything on the inside. And that's exactly what this is. These cylinders over here, these hollow cylinders, all they are is they make the proper hole inside of these cups so that the goggles will fit. And like this triangle, this block and this triangle, they allow me to cut away the side of the material so that they don't dig into my head.
Right. So I'm looking at the drawing right now. Is the battery plate panel in there too?
See, that's the other part. You can't, because if I had put the battery panel inside this design, this empty shape, the hole, would have destroyed it. It would have taken it out of the finished product. So there's a little trick to this. This is something that you're going to want to learn, and I call it incremental design. This C channel right here, instead of trying to build the emptiness around things like the battery plate and the mounting hole for the loop, instead what I did was I made the shape by itself. So this is the C channel just by itself. I'm cut it out exactly the way that I want it. I have none of the other design elements, and what I did was I exported this as an STL, and then I joined it up with the rest of the design. See how that works?
Okay, yeah.
And then this battery plate, which is just that, I just added this back in as another STL. So this is actually 3 different STLs. There's an STL for the cup, an STL for the C channel, and an STL for the battery plate. And that allows me to make these shapes that otherwise I wouldn't be able to do if I was just trying to make one single file. It's a lot of trouble, it's kind of annoying, but the finished product is so much better. Because the problem you have with something like this, I cannot design anything on the inside.
Right.
And not only that, even if I wasn't designing anything on the inside, trying to change this once you've created it, super difficult because you can't get in there unless you move everything out of the way. Then of course you've messed up the design.
Exactly. Wow.
Yeah. So this is, you know, if you were using something like AutoCAD, you could just make those shapes. But again, this is free. This is on the internet. But hopefully people see you can make some incredible shapes, some incredible objects, even without the super expensive software.
Yeah, no, I'm really impressed you're able to do those kind of angles and curves and things like that. That's where things get complicated.
Yeah, and like all the previous designs that we've made, from remember the little box that we wore on the super cooler to the mounting points, they've all been square or circular, cylindrical.
Right.
But when you start adding slants and things don't quite match up, like this, believe it or not, the hardest thing about this design was this C channel. That C channel is such a pain because Tinkercad wasn't designed to deal with shapes on a slant. So when you slant them, they don't quite match up. So like I ended up with, there was way too much material at the bottom and not enough at the top. And the only way I could make it work right is if I did the parts separately and then joined them in the finish.
So along this process, did you have to also think about how the printer was going to make it? Like, because you can't have stuff sitting over things.
And that is always something. Like this overhang, this overhang design element right here, this normally, if you don't have a decent 3D printer, that's going to be a problem because there's no support underneath this.
Right.
But the Dremel is pretty dang good, and the speed is good and the resolution is good, so I knew it could handle that much of an overhang. If I made this more, because that's like a 1.5 millimeter overhang, if I made it a 3 millimeter overhang, the only way I could do it is if I did supports. So it would print pieces that I would later have to get rid of.
Oh, sand off.
I didn't want to do that because I wanted to be able to give these STL files to our audience and say print them as is and they will work.
Right.
And that's what we've done.
Yeah, no, these look really solid.
Yeah.
What resolution are you have on these?
I can't remember what I was using. That's not even the highest resolution because I wanted the part kind of quickly.
Yeah.
And actually, the funny thing is when I did a super high resolution part on this, I didn't like how it looked because it looked a little too finished. I kind of like
the rough edge.
The rough edge look. That's it's kind of it's the thing I'm going for.
Yeah, no, I don't think there's any way really to show it on camera, but there are these like little grooves and things on the lenses that kind of add like to the texture of them.
Yeah. And hopefully, if you've got a 3D printer, you can print it out on your own. Now, I will say this, if you do not have a 3D printer, you can still do the Steampunk Goggle project. It's just that all, like the Arduino and the battery are gonna be hanging on the outside of the frame. Maybe that's the look you want. People have used like those metal straps.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
Yeah. So you can do this with a 3D printer, it makes it a little easier if you do have one.
Well, I guess could you also take the STL file and then send them somewhere to like Shapeways?
Yeah.
That would probably be kind of expensive.
It'd be a little expensive. The finished product would probably look better. But these are finished files that I'm giving you. They will absolutely fit. So
very cool.
If you wanted to and you wanted to pay a little bit of money, you could do it that way.
I feel like you've done the legwork on a lot of this, so I don't feel like it would be so bad to do that. Yeah.
Although I will say this, the finished files that you're gonna get are just as you saw in the demonstration. They're just combinations of various STLs that I've put together.
Yeah.
If you want some of the raw STLs, tweet at me on Twitter. Again, that's @PadreSJ. I'll send you the raw files because if you want to change the goggles to suit you a bit more, I would love to see that.
Very cool.
Yeah. You know, Brian, I think next what we have to do is we actually have to show them how this all goes together. We showed them the electronics, but we've added a piece, which is this little potentiometer.
Right.
And we've also changed the programming, so we should probably get to that, yeah?
Yeah, no, I think I have an idea of how you set up the programming, but I'm looking forward to seeing the details, yeah.
Before we do that, let's go ahead and thank the Ring Video Doorbell. Now, the Ring Video Doorbell is a sponsor of today's Know-How, and y'all know that I love this thing. In fact, I did really use this last night. You know, we had crazy winds, right?
Yes, yeah.
Well, evidently those winds happened in Las Vegas too. Oh. And it set off the alarm at my parents' home.
Oh, okay.
And there was nobody there, and the drop cams weren't responding, so we were freaking out. We're like, someone's broken into the house.
Yeah.
But the only way to break into the house is through the front foyer because everything else is a gate.
Right.
And I was able to go into the Ring Video Doorbell, and I'm like, oh, there's no motion detection. The last video that was recorded was sometime in the afternoon.
So you're all good.
We're all good. And sure enough, when the alarm company came over, they said, oh yeah, it's the wind forced open like one of the doors enough to set off the sensor.
Oh, okay.
But it was great because there was no panic. My parents got the alarm, and then they immediately went to the Ring, and they're like, oh yeah, we're cool.
They knew straight from that.
So even though they're not home, even though they're not in the country, it gave them peace of mind. And that's exactly what the Ring Video Doorbell does. Now, here's how it works. People hear me talking about this all the time. I actually like doing this demo. There is an app on my phone. It's the Ring app. And what this allows me to do is it allows me to connect to the Ring Video Doorbell. And actually, I can have several of these. I could have one at the house in Fremont, one in the house in Las Vegas, one in San Francisco. And it will give me a notification if someone rings the bell. If someone rings the bell, it's going to tell me that there's a caller at my door. And it will allow me to start up a two-way conversation. I get to see who's there. I get to see what they're doing. And most importantly, I get to see if they're up to no good. This is a recording of motion that was detected. It actually picked up the garbage truck.
I was wondering what that sound was.
Exactly. And this is the nice thing about this. It catalogs all the events that happen inside your house. Now, if there's an incident, you can download it and take a look at it later on. But I just find it a nice way for me to check up on my family, check up on my parents. Folks, if you get yourself the Ring Video Doorbell kit, you'll get everything from the Ring Video Doorbell to the plate that you need to install it on the wall so that you can get power from the house, to the drill bit, to the level. It really is a self-contained kit, and I gotta tell you, it's probably one of the best things I've ever bought for my parents' home. Why not try the device that has been called one of the best gadgets of 2015? That's right. Go to ring.com/knowhow. That's ring.com/knowhow and get yourself some free expedited FedEx shipping. Again, that's ring.com/knowhow. With Ring, you are always home. And we thank Ring for their support of Know-How. Hey, Brian, you think we should teach them how to put these things together?
Yes, definitely. This is the part I've been looking forward to.
Well, let's do it. Hey, Alex, go ahead and push that magic button.
In the last segment of Project Steampunk, we drilled rat holes into our goggles, soldered together our power, LED rings, and controller, and uploaded a test sketch to make sure that everything was working. This week, we're adding an analog control, finalizing the electronics, and integrating everything into the 3D printed frame. We're going to start by connecting our analog potentiometer to the Arduino. There are 3 pins on our single-turn potentiometer. The outside pins are for voltage and ground. The middle pin returns a variable voltage depending on the position of the wiper, which is connected to the shaft. We're going to use that variable voltage to control what pattern is being displayed on the LEDs. Solder your ground and positive leads to the outside pins. It doesn't matter which one is which. Then solder a single lead to the middle pin. Insulate your solder joints with lengths of heat shrink tubing. Now let's solder those leads to the Arduino. I soldered ground to the remaining G and D through hole, then the positive lead to the 5-volt hole, and the wiper lead to the analog 7. Poke your leads through, then solder to the through hole, not the wire, and clip off any excess wire. If you have it, take a length of 1 1/4 inch heat shrink tubing and wrap your Arduino. You could probably get away without doing this, but I like the extra protection that it affords. Including last week's assembly, you should now have a power source, 2 daisy-chained LED rings, an Arduino, and a potentiometer to control it all. Now, let's go ahead and integrate it with our 3D printed frame. Let's start by adding the LED ring retention plates. These 3D printed parts should hold the LED rings in place while also cutting down on the amount of light that is reflected back into your eyes. Position them so that the wiring harness is positioned within the cutout, then push them into place. Once they're in properly, you should be able to twist and turn the goggles without movement of the LED rings. Now, let's go ahead and install the potentiometer. It should fit perfectly into the 6mm hole that I designed for the right frame. Push it in all the way, then use the washer and nut to secure it. We could be boring and just install the knob over the top of the shaft, but instead take one of your brass gears and shave away the center hole until it can fit over the shaft of the potentiometer. Once it just barely fits, force it onto the potentiometer shaft, then push the knob over the top. Start to insert the right cup into the right frame. It should fit snugly, with just a little pushing required to complete the docking. While you're installing the frame, gently pull the wire along the side of the cup and make sure it goes between the cup and the frame. Once you've got the right cup inserted into the frame, use a piece of double-sided foam tape to attach the Arduino to the inside of the right frame. If you have any excess wire, use a tie wrap to bunch and manage, or just twist it to control the wiring. Moving to the left cup, we first need to disassemble the magnifying loop. Simply unscrew the nut closest to the clip until it comes off, along with the clip halves and the clip spring. Now choose a brass gear with a small center hole and push the loop mounting pole through the gear, then through the 2mm hole in the left frame. Take the nut you just removed and screw it back into the mounting pole on the other side of the frame. Keep tensioning until the magnifying loops are held in place firmly. Take the battery harness and pass it through the hole at the bottom of the battery retention plate. Then, again gently holding the wires against the side of the cup, slip the left cup into the left frame. Once the cup is firmly attached to the frame, and if you've loaded the program from last week's episode, you should be able to put a battery into the power compartment, connect it to the power harness, and enjoy some senseless LED action.
So that's where we are right now. Okay. This is exactly as we saw it at the end of that last video.
Right.
This is the code, the 100 lines that we did for our Christmas Arduino projects. So all it does is it rotates through a series of animations, spends 10 seconds on each one, and then moves on to the next. And
right,
the next,
just
and the
loops
next.
over. Yeah.
There's actually 6 different animations that you can choose from. And yeah, there you go. Now, we did add this potentiometer, but right now it does nothing.
Right, because we haven't modified the code at all.
Exactly. We've got the hardware connected, so this is physically connected to the Arduino, but if you remember that original 100 lines Christmas light code, it was static. You run it and it just keeps going and going and going. What we're going to do is we're going to show you how you change the code so that you can allow for something like this. And actually, we're modifying a few bits and pieces to make it look even cooler.
Nice.
Yeah. But you know, Brian, before we get to that, you know what I like?
What's that?
Money.
I do too.
Well, I mean, I like money, not because it's money.
Right, but the things that I can use to make.
Precisely. Yeah. And there's a problem right now. And that problem is that there's a lot of people out there who are starting to make money, you know, young professionals, or perhaps those people who are a little older and they're getting on and they want to make sure they have a nest egg.
Right.
And they're investing the old way.
Yeah, like a shoebox, mattress.
Oh, even worse than that. I mean, a shoebox and a mattress, at least you've got it there. I'm talking about people who are investing with these mutual companies, who are putting it with a fund that charges outlandish fees. I mean, I've seen some of those funds charge like 3%. In other words, they're charging you to hold on to your money. It's a very, very strange thing.
I don't want that.
No, especially once you start tacking on fees, in addition to the commission, it's no bueno.
Now I'm just starting to feel overwhelmed.
Yeah, especially since we all know that when you put your money into the hands of somebody else, sometimes they may do things with that money that's not in your best interest, but in the interest of the portfolio in general. What if I told you you could do away with all of that? You could get rid of those nasty fees. You could drop the commission down to almost nothing. And you could put your money in the hands of a cold calculating algorithm that thinks of nothing more than how do I maximize your profit.
That's what I want, yeah.
That's what you want? Well, guess what? That's what you can do with Wealthfront. Now, just as I described, Wealthfront is a better way to invest. It's a way for you to put your money in a very transparent investment. You know, this isn't one of those, I'm going to call my broker and find out how my money is doing. This is log in and in an instant, in a moment, figure out exactly where you've been allocated, where your risks are, and you can 1% and 3% of what they manage. With Wealthfront, you pay just 1/4 of 1% a year. That's 25 basis points. That's unheard of. 0 commissions and no hidden fees. That's less than $5 a month to invest a $30,000 account. Now, there are no additional charges for any of Wealthfront services. You could get started investing today with, not $10,000, not $5,000, not even $1,000, $500. If you've got $500, you could right now sign up for Wealthfront, move it in there, and see what they can do for you. Again, one of the things that I love about Wealthfront is that it is so accessible. We are an internet generation. We want to be able to log in and find out what's going on, and that's exactly what Wealthfront lets you do. Did you know that more than 90% of the portfolios out there aren't invested in the right way for the long term? This is a problem. Even people who are somewhat savvy with their money, they may not be putting it into the right place. You need a different strategy if you're trying to defer tax versus if you're really trying to grow the portfolio versus if you're developing a retirement account. Wealthfront understands that, and so do their algorithms. It's based on a Nobel Prize-winning academic research paper, and it's really the best investment practice that we have today. We've heard from many Twit fans who have used Wealthfront, and they love how they can diversify their portfolios and buy stocks from in-demand companies like Apple, Amazon, and Facebook, all commission-free. They manage over $2.6 billion in client assets, and it's growing more rapidly every day. So what are you waiting for? If you've got even a little money to invest, now is the time to do it. And now is the time to do it with Wealthfront. Visit wealthfront.com/knowhow. That's wealthfront.com/knowhow to sign up and get your free personalized investment portfolio. You'll see the customized allocation that they recommend for your profile. And just for Twit listeners, if you sign up to invest, Wealthfront will manage your first $15,000 entirely free of charge for life. Join the many Twit fans who have seen huge success with Wealthfront and claim your free offer today. Again, wealthfront.com/knowhow. Wealthfront.com/knowhow. And we thank Wealthfront for their support of Know-How.
I've already downloaded the app.
Whoa!
Yeah, I'm gonna.
Wait, in the time that we were doing the ad, you downloaded the app?
Yeah, now I just got to sign up and get more money.
Hey, but you've got $500. Put $500 in there.
That's true. All right, I'll do it.
Maybe we'll do a Know-How to invest. It'll be a really short episode.
Actually, I was playing, so nerding out, I was playing Civilization 5, and it said, one of the quotes in it is, the most powerful force in the universe is compound interest. It's like, yeah, that's pretty true.
Well, I don't want to talk about compound interest. What I want to talk about is programming. So let's go over a few of the things that we've done. Let me open up the IDE here really quickly. This, you may notice, this is the code that we uploaded last week. So this is just the 100 lines code. Go ahead and go full screen, Alex. So as you can see, this is the same bit of program code that we used when we did the Christmas lights.
Yeah.
Right. We changed a few things. We changed the data pin because our data pin was soldered to 3, not 7, as it was for the Christmas light example. Also, we've got 32 LEDs because we've got 16 each, right?
Exactly.
2 rings, and we've daisy-chained them together. We've also been playing with brightness and frames per second. Now, I will notice one thing. If you come back to the full shot, when we did last week's segment, we still had the welding glass in here. I got rid of it just because
For demonstration reasons?
For demonstration, because it was so hard to see through it. Although I do kind of like that ability to not see the rings until they're on.
Right.
So I'll probably
dim it a little.
I'll probably add them back, but I might use a slightly not as dark
And
glass.
when you wear them with the double glass like that, it's like living inside of a rainbow.
That's the other thing. I may actually dump the double glass. I'm going to have to change the LED ring to make it stick properly. But there is no way to get around that glare. The LED ring is actually doing a great job of keeping the backsplash of light.
Yeah.
But it's reflecting off that front glass, which has no protection.
Right.
And yeah, that's the end of that. So that we will be changing. What you're going to see me do, if you go back to the code, Alex, for the clear lights, I'm going to be dropping the brightness way down, not 96%. I'm probably going to do 40%, 30%, just to keep that.
The battery life? Will it affect the battery life?
Slightly.
Slightly.
I mean, yeah. I was actually getting like an hour and a half of battery off of this.
Not bad.
So that's not bad at all. And
For
that's
the two little batteries you got in there?
No,
or
just one.
Oh, just
one little battery. And
Wow.
not only that, I disconnected it before it went flat.
Oh, okay. Yeah, good call. Because you don't want that puffing up on your head.
Yeah. Exactly. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of the things that we have to change here. This is the 100 lines of code. First of all, we said that we changed the data pin from 7 to 3. We changed our LEDs to 32, so we reflect the number of LEDs. I'm going to go ahead and drop down my brightness. Let's use 40% here. Then I need to go ahead and, change the actual code, because we need this to interact with our potentiometer.
Right.
That's what's going to allow us to control something, even though we don't know exactly what we're going to control.
So, okay, so we'll probably have to set another data pin, right?
No, because we do have it, because we soldered it in. But it's not on a digital pin, it's on analog pin.
Okay.
Remember that during the little segment? Right. So that's what we soldered it to. But the question becomes, what can we control?
Right.
How do I make this interact? And to do that, let's go full screen on this again, Alex. These are the actual functions that are being used by the code to generate the animations. So this is next pattern. All this does is it advances it. So the code has created, let's see if I can find it here. The code has created an array. Where is it? There it is. An array right here. And that array correlates to each and every single one of the animations. So all this next function does is it advances the array from one cell to the next, to the next, to the next, back to the beginning, to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next, back to the beginning.
Makes sense.
And each of those array cells are filled with a different function. So I've got rainbow, I've got rainbow with glitter, I've got add glitter, I've got confetti, and I've got the sign and BPM.
Okay.
So what I want to do is I want to know, is there a way, since they've already built the code to contain arrays of the functions, is there an easy way for me to control which one it's showing, rather than it jumping to the next one every 10 seconds? And the answer is yes, because if it's an array, all I need to do is I need to make my potentiometer change the number of the array that's currently being shown.
Okay.
The number of the cell in the array, right?
Right.
So for example, the array is array size right here, this one, right? So A, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, those are the 6 different animations I can choose from.
Right.
Okay. So what can I do to this code to make it, if you go ahead and come back out to the full us, what can I do to this code to make it so that it
triggers from
the potentiometer to the actual code that I want to play with? And the answer is, I'm going to go back to what we did with
the ultrasonic sensor, right?
With those projects, it's the analog input that we played with that would change what lights did. Remember, we had one that would change brightness and the speed of the animation.
Right.
We're going to use that same knowledge. Go ahead and go back to my code. So this is the new code. And here's a few things that we've done. First, we've added serial begin 9600. The reason why we're doing this is because I want to debug. I could actually delete this. It's not going to do anything for the code, but this allows me to figure out what that analog potentiometer is doing. Which I want. So that's one thing I've added. Another thing that I've added is I've gone ahead and changed this. This is the every n seconds. So in the old code, every n seconds, actually let's open up the old code so you can see the old code. In the old code, every 10 seconds it would just change the array
to the next
function.
Let's
Let's open this up. There we go. like right there. Okay. So every 10 seconds, oh, jeez.
Careful.
Bad mouse. Every 10 seconds, it's going to
change pattern.
Invoke the function next pattern.
Okay.
And the function next pattern will advance the cell.
Right. So you're just going to replacing that with then what will be the potentiometer?
Right. So what I've done, instead of advancing to the next pattern, I said, instead of every 10 seconds, I said every 0.5. So every half second, run the function called pattern. So the older one said, ran the function next pattern. I'm saying run the function pattern. And I've actually created the function pattern. This is what's inside this function pattern. And if you've watched our previous episodes with Arduino, you know what this does because this is basically just a rewrite. This first part creates a variable, an integer variable called aread, and it reads into it the value it gets from analog 7. See, analog read 7. Okay. So it's reading the value coming off that 7 pin, which is where we soldered the potentiometer.
Right.
Okay, that's going to check analog 7 pin, and it's going to give us a value between 1 and about 1024.
Okay, and you measured...
Actually, 0 and 1024.
And 1024,
right.
Okay.
And then what I'm going to do is this. We've seen this before. I need to map it because I only have 6 animations. I don't have 1024 animations.
Right.
And I also want to make it so that there's a little bit of leeway in the knob. I don't want it to be so hard to select a single pattern.
Right. So do you have to break it up into 6 brackets?
Well, 6, but it will be 7, and I'll explain why in just a bit. But yeah, exactly. Remember what the mapping function does? It takes any range and it maps it onto a new range. In this case, I say take the variable that you just created, and we're going to put into a new variable called pattern choice, from 0 to 1020, 0 to 6.
Right, so that's breaking it up. It's dividing the 1020 into
so
6.
It's doing the math for me. It's saying take 1024, 0 to 1024, or in this case, 0 to 1020, and break it up so that you've got 7 pieces, 0 to 6.
Right. I think I know why you need 7.
Yeah. And I know exactly.
I think I know where you're going.
Okay. Now this part, just like that serial debug, I don't actually have to put this in here, but it does. It allows me to see what the values are. In my finished code, if I'm actually running out of space, I can just delete all that.
Okay.
Okay. Now, what I had to do was I had to create something new because I wanted an off position. There is no off in the old code.
Right. So you would be dialing it back and forth, and it would just stay on, right?
It would just stay on.
If you didn't have this.
Precisely. So what I did was I added a new animation called blank. And so when it's at position 0, so at the lowest position possible for the potentiometer, it's going to go to this array cell. And this array cell has a function called blank, and all blank does is this is a built-in function in the LED library, the fast LED library, called fade to black. And this will give me a nice fade to 0 rather than just turning it off.
Right. Yeah, okay, that'll look cool.
Okay, so let's go and upload this. Remember, disconnect the battery first because I don't want 2 power sources. If I connected this to my USB port,
and the battery.
that would be a bad thing.
You'd be frying it.
I'd be frying it. So I'm going to go ahead and connect and make sure we're good to go here. Let me shut down the other IDE window so we get no conflicts. I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I'm sending to an Arduino Nano, and I'm sending it to COM port 6.
Cool.
And let's go ahead and upload. And I'm going to hit upload, and I'm going to hit the little programming button, which I left open so that you could get to.
Oh, see, yeah, you could.
Yeah. By the way, if you happen to cover up the programming button, all you have to do is disconnect and reconnect. It's the same thing.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
Sweet.
Okay, now it's uploading, and there we go, done uploading. Okay, so now
no errors.
It's gonna refresh. So now, what I have is I have complete control of what animation cell is going to be displayed. So as I turn this, what's going to happen is I'm going to go from position 0 right now, which is doing blank, to position 1. And position 1 is doing just the standard rainbow.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to go from position 1 to position 2, which adds a little sparkle.
Sparkle.
And then the next position does this.
Nice.
And then the next position does that. I kind of like, this is probably my favorite, the little chase.
Yeah, it's kind of like an infinity loop.
Yeah, it really is. And then I think there's this one. I think there might be one more. Yeah, so that's the last one.
Okay, so you've dialed it all the way to the, I guess, clockwise, counterclockwise?
Right, clockwise. Actually, this is counterclockwise. And actually, Alex, if you go ahead and look at my my screen again, this is why we added the serial lines. It's so that I can see right here what it's doing. So this is position 0, and you'll see on the far side is the true number. So from 0 all the way up to like 1024.
So this is just like when we were doing the ultrasonic sensor.
Exactly like we were doing it. And then on the other side you have 0 to 6. So those numbers have been assigned from here to here is position 0, and then we switch over to position 1, and then we switch over to position 2, then we go over to position 3, position 4, and position 5, and finally position 6.
Very cool.
There you go.
That's awesome.
Right?
Now show the fade to black.
Oh yeah, wait. Boo!
Ooh, nice.
There is something about
like
that.
that.
I mean,
like
that took me no time because I was just looking through the library of the fast LED.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, what's this function? And fade to black. Oh, that sounds good.
Perfect.
There's actually another one that like pulses first and then fades.
And then slowly fades out. Yeah.
But I'm like, that's too fancy. It's too showy. I'll let them play with that. that's their job.
So did you customize those patterns too that you did for those?
A little bit. So I tweaked it, but all the code is going to be available to you. So
cool.
Absolutely everything that we've done in this project, that's the parts list, that's the 3D printed frames, that's the code is going to be available in the show notes.
Very cool.
Yeah. I will say one thing, Alex. If you back up, go to the link for the potentiometer. This wasn't in the original parts list. I just added it because the original idea was I was going to Bluetooth control it. But that's kind of clunky.
No,
yeah.
I like having that physical dial on it.
Exactly, and these are really cheap. It's $7 to get yourself 8, so pick up a bunch.
Oh yeah, you can make a few goggles. Make goggles for your friends.
Well, as we've seen, those are really, really useful. If you've got an Arduino, it is a great way to get input. One of the things I was thinking about doing was putting another one on this side that would control brightness. So you've got animation on this side, brightness on this side, and then maybe I could move the loop a little up.
Yeah.
I'm actually very happy. I'm very, very happy with the finished look of these goggles. If you go to the side view here, I think that's.
And this all stemmed from you going to the maker store, right, in the city, and being like, I can do this and make it better.
They had one that was just this part, and
with
it had
like an Arduino tied to it. Yeah.
Same LEDs, and it was a fixed animation. It would kind of pulse.
Right.
And I'm like, well, that's $50. What can I make for $50? And this is actually way less expensive than $50.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So do it. Especially if you've got a 3D printer, go play.
Yeah, exactly.
Please, go play. Yeah. Bryan, I know that this has been a lot of material for the folks at home.
Yes.
If only there were a place that they could go and
somewhere that
find all the
existed
notes.
on the internet,
I know,
kind of like a
too bad.
database.
Too bad
notes.
that's not there though.
Oh wait, yeah, there is.
Oh,
yeah.
whoa.
Alex remembered.
Oh,
yeah.
that's
we
why
have a
he's the director.
website. It's called at twit.tv/KH, and not only can you find all the links to the stuff that we talked about today, but you can find past episodes. So if you want to refresh on some of these projects that we've done, or even just thumb through some of the pictures that we've taken.
I think black does look better than white, right?
It does. It does. Yeah, I think so. But go there, subscribe to the show, download the version of your choice, and check that out.
Yeah. Parts list, directions, actually step by step. And it's really a compliment. Also, if you were having trouble soldering the original Steampunk project from last week, if you go to our YouTube page at youtube.com/knowhow, I actually did a real-time, it was like 30-minute video of me taking the goggles from raw materials to this.
Very nice.
Because I gave Bryan the prototype, so I had to remake them. It doesn't take that long, and it's actually not as hard as you might think it is. Yeah. It really is. It's a fun project, especially if you want to do something with like your kid, or if you act like a kid. It's a really, this is a nice little weekend thing.
Yeah, totally.
And who doesn't like lights?
Yeah, so go to the YouTube, see some of the behind-the-scenes stuff.
Go to the YouTubes. Also, don't forget that you can find us on Google+. It's probably one of the best ways to interact with our know-it-alls. We've got almost 10,000 members and getting closer every week. And it's a fun place to go and post pictures of your projects, ask questions about future projects, or just hang around with a lot of geeks who like making things.
Yeah, or showing off the projects of the things that they made.
Yeah. You know? Just go to Google+ and look for Know How. But that's not the only place they can find us.
No, because we don't We don't just do know-how stuff. We've got other things that are going on. If you want to find out about that, you can find them on Twitter. I'm at cranky_hippo.
And I am at Padre SJ. And our erstwhile plague-carrying director is at ANELF3.
He keeps
That's
us in
an
check.
L3.
Yes.
I'm not even going to try to say his name because I always forget every week.
It's okay. He hides in the darkness.
Steve,
We'll never really know.
I think. Yeah. Until next time, I'm Father Robert Ballecer.
And I'm Bryan Burnett.
And now that you know how,
go build it. I think you're tethered, yeah.
Hi, everybody. It's time for our annual audience survey. We'd really like to hear from you. It helps us understand our audience better, know what you like and don't like, how you listen to the show. It also helps us tell advertisers what kind of people listen. But I promise you, your feedback is always kept personally anonymous. All you have to do is visit twit.tv/survey and let us know what you think. It'll just take a few minutes, and it'll help us make Twit even better. We really appreciate your support and any help you can give us. twit.tv/survey.